pasu, voltaic, silver. Okay, so this was a rather sloppy run. Sorry very much. But the first thing I want to mention for pasu, voltaic, silver is that this scenario is actually accuracy based. So you see I have 85 kills and this gives me 85 points. But I have clicked 113 times, but hit only 85, which means I have an accuracy of 86.73%. Now, my score is actually multiplication of the amount of kills, the amount of points I got here, multiplied by 86.73%, and the resulting score is 73.7%. Which means, if you miss, you wasted your time going for that bot and that click, and additionally, you are dragging down your score, de-evaluating every previous hit and every future hit you will get, so you get punished several times over the regular value for missing shots. So going for a higher score in pasu, voltaic, silver requires you to mostly improve your accuracy and not the amount of times you click. So, that being said, if you go up, of course, everyone has high accuracy scores. So the top score being 120. So this guy clicked maybe 130 times. A little bit more. I did not do the math, like, you know, quick math and head. I'm stupid. But you can calculate it yourself. Like divide this number by 0.93. Like divide this by 0.93. Then you know how often this guy clicked. And you will see it's actually not that much faster than I have clicked, but he has done that a little bit faster. So like maybe 30% faster, but with also with a lot higher accuracy. And with accuracy itself, don't forget that, you know, the number difference is, yeah, you know, because it's only 7%, but the like how to put it, to get from like imagine you shoot 100 times, right? To go from 1% hit to 2% hit, so a doubling the amount of accuracy you need to hit only once more. So going from 1% to 2% is very easy. But to go, you know, from 98% to 99% becomes incredibly hard, because you're only allowed to miss one time instead of 2 times in the entire scenario. So it's kind of reverses, the difficulty reverses. So in this upper ends of accuracy, the higher you get in percent, the harder it gets to climb higher in percentage. So that's why this is not an even thing. So just something, you know, just some thoughts on numbers, not really relevant. Then another thing I want to say, pasu is not like PGTI or CFSI or some other fancy abbreviation. Pasu is just a name of a player, and this pasu requested a scenario to be made for him, and then Fugler made this scenario for pasu, and since then this type of moving bots in this pattern is called pasu. This is a pasu scenario because the bots move in this specific, like, everyone has an idea of how a pasu scenario looks like with all the variations there are. So then for this specific scenario, the pasu is a very, very interesting one. I can talk 2 hours just about pasu scenarios alone, but let's save it for also higher runs. Let's just talk about some things here. So you have kinda big bots moving kinda slow, of course, compared to other pasu scenarios. Pasu scenarios itself, they are a combination of a variation of different skills you need to have at the same time, and you need to improve them at the same time, more or less. So the first thing is, of course, look at the bot, track his movement with his eye. okay? Just you know, pure tracking and reading. You know, just like a pure, you need some sort of pure tracking skills. Then you also need to kind of understand where the bot is for acquisition skills, like a flick to them, like you would with the Bardos static clicking scenarios, like first big flick and then micro correct. You see, like basically like in the target switch, right? Like you would do it like in a target switch, more or less. But instead of holding down M1, like now I'm holding it, nothing happens, but of course you need to click at some point. And so for this clicking, then you kind of need some sort of validation of are you actually on target or not. Because remember, you want to validate if your cursor is on target before you click. You never do it after you click. So if you kind of clicking, and then check, oh, is it alive, you're doing it wrong. Even if you miss, you move to the next bot. Even if you miss, you move to the next bot. You don't check if the bot is actually dead. You're already prepared to go for the next target. This is only 30, 20, 40 milliseconds. No wrong order to list them. But you know, it's a very short, brief time. But added up after 100 clicks, it's still 1 or 2 more clicks you could have had in a run. Or a little bit more time you could have had aiming at something. Now there are actually 2 schools of thought. So one thing is that you flick in a direction of the bot. You click on where the bot is currently. And then you, but you don't make a flick to stop, you make a flick to track like you would with target switch scenarios. And then you just track the bot basically. Flick to track, 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 flick to track. You know, always have this tracking, and during this tracking you check, am I on target? If yes, then you click. But there's also another school of thought where you kind of read the bot movement, predict where it's going, and flick in front of the bot. And then you just wait until it goes, and then you click. And this waiting is not really a waiting. You can have more micro corrections depending on where you land, but it's not a tracking specifically. And in this type of mode, you would skip the validation. So in front of the bot, in front of the bot, in front of the bot. So now I'm always flicking too far in front of the bot to show what I'm doing. Of course, now I'm missing. Now if I want to hit, actually kind of look more like this. So it's a little bit hard to demonstrate it with my mouse skills, honestly. It's a little bit easier to explain, so just follow my words, don't look at my screen. No, of course. Yeah, well, I hope you can see it. So there's a difference between flick to track. So flick where it was and then track it. Flick and then track, 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 flick to track, or predict, 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 predict. I'm kind of falling back into the flick to track because I trained it more honestly. Let's try again. Predict, 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 predict. And you see after the flick, my mouse moves a little bit less, and it's kind of, the bot is supposed to go into my crosshair by itself, more or less. So there are these 2 trains of thought. Train them both. There is no pro and contra of training one over the other. I would say skipping the validation part is in general a little bit better for a high score, but flick to track is a very important skill, so don't just skip that because you get a higher score. Like, who cares about scores? Get better with your mouse, right? That's why you're here, get better with your mouse aim. And both skills have their application in-game in a variation of situations. So train them both. Flick to track or predict. Now, with that being said, in the beginning I would suggest that you don't mix them up too much. Pick one you like first, and then train that for 1 or 2 weeks, and then try the other and train that for 1 or 2 weeks. Then decide which one you will do the benchmarks on, train this for 1 week more, and then do the benchmarks again with this training you applied. And then maybe do the benchmarks with the other mode again to just see what is actually difference for you is. So for me right now, I'm training the prediction mode because I have done that less, and I did that less, so the training... Yeah, well, it's easier to train, you know, like you have skills that are good, you have skills that are bad, and it's easier to get bad skills to be somewhat okay than getting good skills to be perfect. Like, I'm not reaching Grandmaster level on any skills, so now trying to reach Grandmaster on static target clicking would be absolutely insane. Yeah. So I rather take my silver skills and get them to gold rather than going for the other end, you know. I go for the easy end because, well, it's easier. I'm lazy. That's why I'm training, because I'm lazy. Because, you know, if you have better aim, you don't need so much game sense, so you can shut your brain off and just aim them to death, and then you also win your games. So, then with pasu, another thing I want to say is you can use a lot of different sensitivities in pasu for your training, actually, because you have this different skills, like this flicking, the tracking, the transition. You need smoothness. Try to be smooth. If you go for the tracking scenario, tracking variation, go for smoothness, so that it looks really clean. And for that, I suggest some things. So one thing is, you can play with an incredibly slow mouse, like 60. And what it does is you need to actually make a big arm motion, and then transition to a somewhat smaller arm motion. But with this transition, you will start to shake a lot. Like if you do it, try to do it really fast, you get this like a sort of rubber banding, where you get a really shaky landing, I would say. And trying to get this landing smooth is a good training. But you are kind of not really training too much precision. You are training more like a speed, like getting from flick to track smoothness faster, basically. You can go the other way around, that you train smoothness. So you go to like 25 centimeters. Then of course you don't need to move your mouse very much anymore. You can adapt more wrist, more fingers for this. So that it also adapts which type of muscle you use for a scenario. So now I make a flick with my arm and then finger and wrist correction. So this emulates like you peek at one door, but the enemy appears at the other door. Then you need to make a big flick, and then you need to actually start aiming after the big flick. And with this, of course, you kind of will start to see some shakiness after you have flicked to the target. And again, try to be really smooth. Make it look really clean if you can. Of course, I cannot because I'm a noob. Let's try to make it look like really clean. Don't forget, for pasu, this type of scenario, this is not a reload scenario. You need high accuracy to get high scores. And I suggest you really train your accuracy here more than your clicking speed. Like how do I say it? Usually for some types of training, you want to have different accuracy levels for different types of training. And I think for this one specifically, for pasu voltaic silver, to get that down to a level where you can transition to pasu voltaic gold, I would suggest that you really train mostly your accuracy until you can reach something like 95% accuracy if you want to. Like, you need to be really slow target acquisition. Like you cannot. Oh, missed already 2 times. I already lost. Like if you go for 100 clicks, you are allowed to miss maybe 4 or 5 times. So you're allowed to miss once every 15 seconds. So you can count it. If you have the clock showing, you can just count down the time. If you miss 2 times within 50 seconds, you can reset already. And that is just like 95% accuracy is not something you reach easily, right? If you look at the top score, yeah, right. No one is playing at 95% accuracy, but it's just a teachable moment. To really try to get that accuracy really down, you really need to look really hard at one bot, really track it very hard. Like, so hard that you cannot even see where to go next. So you're really skipping some skills in favor of other skills. And then if you have figured out how to reach this really high accuracy, like, don't need to reach 95%, but you know, just try to improve. Just try to be able to improve your accuracy, like just because you want to. And then you can try to get a little speed in, and then maybe try to make the first flick faster, and then get some accuracy in after that first flick being fast. And I know it looks stupid, but because it looks stupid, my brain realized, oh, there is something I can improve on, because it looks stupid for me. Even what I'm doing, it looks stupid for me, so I can improve on this. It's easy to see, I can improve here. And with this type of thinking, you can limit the amount of tasks you train at one instance of training, because it's hard if you want to train everything at once, like good big flick, fast big flick, then good acquisition, smoothness, no shaky, find next target fast and easy, so on. Like, there's too many skills at once. You don't train everything at once, it doesn't work. Pick one, like list all atomic skills you need for pasu, and then train one of them at one time. You see, for me, the target switch style, I would call it, is easier than the prediction style. Let's do prediction again, prediction, and of course I was an arm aimer before. I started to be a fingertip aimer, so actually arm aiming is for me also a little bit easier. You saw my high score I did on 45 centimeters, so it's a little bit easier for me now. So 25 is actually a good training for me in this instance. Okay, if there's nothing else, if you have questions, leave me a comment or talk to me live on stream. I will also answer your questions while playing Overwatch. I can talk while playing, well, because I never play well, so I can always talk. And thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye!